very, very, very best performing videos I've ever made. All of them were found using that strategy. Okay, the next thing that I would say to do is to read The War of Art. This is such a good book. It's really short, like the pages don't even take up the full page, so it's a really quick read. But it talks about the war, kind of the battle when you're doing something creative and you're putting yourself on the line. And the big thing to overcome is resistance. A lot of times you might feel unmotivated to film, or you're like, oh, I just don't know if I should. And the big thing to overcome is it's just a resistance. I found a lot of times I feel kind of unmotivated to film. I'm like, oh, I don't really want to. And then as soon as I'm 2 minutes into it, then I'm like, oh, this is really fun. I love doing this. But just 2 minutes previously, I'm like, I should quit. I don't know what I should do. I should just give up. And it's just that resistance. Like the getting started is the hardest part. And if you can just overcome the getting started, it's really fun. If this is in alignment with what you're supposed to do, like if you really are supposed to do a YouTube channel and you really love doing it, then once you get into it, you'll really enjoy it. But it's that resistance. And that resistance is like the killer of consistency. I heard that it's one of the most difficult traits for humans to be consistent and consistently good at something. Like anyone can do like a one-off that's excellent, but can you consistently be excellent? And I think that's the number one skill that people don't have, is this patience and this consistency, and that's the number one thing that I would try to cultivate. And finally, the last thing in this mindset category is don't let your knowledge overtake your action. I think like when I was first getting started, I was like all in the analytics, and this is what I'm going to do, and this analytic means this, and I need to do this thumbnail or whatever. Meanwhile, I didn't have a camera, I'm just on my phone or whatever, which is fine. But I don't need any of that knowledge. That knowledge is wasting time, and a lot of times it's a procrastination technique because you're scared. And so you store up all this knowledge, but when you have all this input and then you don't output anything, it just becomes overwhelming, and your brain doesn't know what to do with all this knowledge, and like, what if you forget it? And a lot of times knowledge not used pretty quickly just gets forgotten. And so I would learn all these like camera settings, and I didn't have a camera, and then by the time I got one, I didn't remember them because it was months later. So just make sure that your knowledge doesn't overtake your action. I think that's kind of the big issue with like the internet and all like the advice. So one thing that I do is I have a vision book. It's kind of a goal setting planner. And one thing I do is every month I have a personal development plan. And so the main question is, what's the one most basic, that's kind of the key, basic, what's the one most basic skill or character trait that I could master this month? And so if each month I focus on the one most basic thing that really adds up to something. So consistency is something that I did. Click-through rate is something that I've done. Energy on camera is something that I've done. And so it's important to really focus on the basics and master the basics before you overload yourself with too much information. Okay, the second category that I want to give you advice on is kind of the methods, kind of the methodology. So the first thing I want to talk about is my weekly workflow. This is just kind of a practical thing. This is something that I've experimented with a lot. So I would try, okay, this week, this is going to be my workflow, and then I would kind of assess what worked and what didn't, and then I would tweak it. So I'll give you like what my weekly workflow is, but feel free to tweak it because, you know, we're different, so we're going to have different preferences. So I like to start my week on Fridays. So Friday is when I kind of pick the video topics, and I like to use my phone, and in my voice memos, I'll kind of record what I want to say for the video, because I find that I'm a lot more put together on camera if I've already kind of said it once, but I don't want to like have to go through the trouble doing camera. So I like doing voice memos. So I'll think of the ideas, I'll do voice memo. I also have a Google Doc template. I just made a Google Doc, and I fill out what do I want the title to be, what's my thumbnail idea, and I'll draw it kind of in Google Docs. There's a drawing tool, and then I'll do kind of a rough outline, and then I click file, like make a copy, and I'll make a copy of it every week for a new video. So that's kind of what I do on Fridays. Mondays, I like to listen through that voice memo that I made, and I like to tighten it up. A lot of times what I do then is I had an idea, and then later on in the video there's another idea, and I'm like, these should have been together. So I do a lot of rearranging. So what I do is I kind of go through the voice memo, rearrange things, put them into categories. How do I think they flow best together? And I get ready to film for the next day. On Tuesdays, that's when I actually film. So get the camera ready, get the lights ready, and I get set up and I film. I take Wednesdays off, and then Thursdays is the end of the week. That's when I make my thumbnails. That's when I edit. So that's kind of my week. So the next method is it's called the setup method. I got it from Erin May Henry. She used to do YouTube. Now she's just kind of doing Instagram. But it's setting up the day before. So if you notice, my week, I started on Friday. So at the end of one week, that's when I start the next week. It's because of this whole resistance concept. The hardest part is getting started. So what I like to do is at the end of day one, I get started on the thing I'm going to do day two. On Tuesdays, I film. So what I like to do is on Monday evenings, that's when I'll set up my camera. So I get the camera set up Monday evenings, and I get that all set up. Thursdays is when I do my editing and my thumbnails. So to get started on that process, I'll kind of I'll take my SD card, upload all the files to Final Cut the Wednesday evening before. So that's been so helpful. That's one of the major things to staying consistent and staying motivated is if the getting started part's already done, it makes it way easier to just do it. And the final kind of method thing is I found that at the beginning I had so many ideas, you know what I mean? Because I had all this knowledge my entire lifetime of ideas just kind of pent up. And after 35 videos, I was kind of getting to the end of the main themes that I wanted to say. And then after a while, it was like, what should I say? And I found that because I was doing 2 videos a week or at times 3 videos a week, I'm outputting a ton. And you need your input and your output to be about the same. Because if you're inputting so much, if you're reading a lot, you're on social media a lot, you're getting a ton of information, then you start feeling overwhelmed, you might start feeling anxious. So then what's good to do with all that is then to output, you teach it to someone, you make a video about it, you make an Instagram post about it, and it keeps you kind of balanced so that you're not so overwhelmed. But then what happened was I was outputting so much that it was like I had no ideas anymore. I was like, I basically just like outputted all my ideas. And so then you have to create a routine of like reading or listening to podcasts or consuming whatever content it is that you want to create. And then not copy that content. But what I find is that if I listen to a podcast about productivity or whatever it is, then it sparks an idea in me. And I'm like, oh, I should make a video about that. And then I get kind of re-energized and re-inspired and re-motivated. And so that's really something. Okay, finally, the final thing is kind of the strategy. So I have a few kind of like strategy, tactical, just very practical tips. The first one is I use a Canon M50. I don't remember how much it was. I want to say it was maybe $700, and then I got a MacBook Pro, and then I edited on Final Cut. So there's a lot of big financial things. But I want to point out that I started on my phone, and here's the deal. Phone quality is actually very good. They shoot in 4K, so they're very good. This is an old phone, okay? This is really old. This is like an iPhone 5 or something. I think, I'm not sure. And it shoots really good, actually. The front-facing camera does not, but the back-facing camera does. And then you can go into your settings. I think you go into settings, click camera, and then change it to 4K, and it's really good. I feel it's very comparable to a camera, especially if you're not a camera expert, because phones are made for people that aren't really experts, so the color looks pretty good. I feel like people, like subjects especially, look really good on a phone. Whereas with a camera, you have to really get into the settings, I feel, to make a person look good. So that's just something to be aware of. I look back at some of my videos that were shot on a phone, and actually they look better than my current stuff, and it's just because I'm not really a camera expert. I've looked into the settings, but I'm just not really an expert. So if you're in that boat, the phone actually looks really good, but I would just say do not let tech get in the way. Ever, ever, ever. Tech is majorly a hindrance in my experience if you're not super tech oriented. If you're a tech oriented person, then by all means go for it. If that's one of your strengths, then go for it. But if you're not tech oriented, by and large for me it's just been a hindrance, and so I wouldn't spend like a super long amount of time on it. The other thing that can be a hindrance, especially when you're first getting started, is analytics. I used to check my YouTube analytics like every day, multiple times a day when a video would come out, and especially if you're just getting started, the analytics are going to suck, okay? 2 people watch your video, you have 0 subscribers, and people are like, I've heard people ask me, they're like, well, what do I do if I upload 10 videos and I still have 0 subscribers? Then what does that mean? I'm like, that means nothing. That means you're normal, okay? It took me so long to get like anywhere decent. I still have a very small amount of subscribers. You have to just keep pushing on and get rid of the mindset that there are some special people that were just destined to do YouTube and they were always good at it and they're destined to succeed and have thousands of subscribers. And I'm just a normal person, and I guess we'll just see if I'm one of the destined ones. But after 10 videos, if I don't have that many, then I guess I'm not one of the special talented ones. And that's just not how it is. You have to have a growth mindset that says I'm bad now, maybe, but I'm not going to judge myself because I'm growing and I will be way better. 100 videos from now, 200 videos from now, 1,000 videos from now. A lot of times you look at the people that have a lot of subscribers, they've uploaded over 1,000 videos and they have deleted the ones they didn't like. So sometimes you look at someone's channel and it's not even an accurate representation of how much work they've put in because they deleted a lot of the ones they didn't like. So they might have kept their first one, but then there's a huge chunk of time that's just missing, you know? So don't make any evaluative comments about yourself that you're not good. Just have the growth mindset. The phrase that I love, success. And that's pretty much how it works. It's like getting started is so important, but what you actually output right now doesn't really matter because you're just getting better. In small increments, you're getting better. The final strategy that I think has worked really well for me, you may, if depending on how far you are into this, there are some Google Chrome extensions that you can download. TubeBuddy is a big one that you may hear about, and so is vidIQ. I do not recommend you really use those. I have not found that they were helpful. Besides one metric, there's only one metric that I found to be helpful, and it's called view velocity. So if you get the extension vidIQ, and then once you have it downloaded, if you type in any creator's name, like say you typed in my name, and you click on my channel, with that extension, there's a button that says trending, and so you click on it, and it's got view velocity, and what that is views per hour. So typically the videos that are getting the most views per hour are the newest videos, but occasionally there's a video that came out 5 years ago, and all of a sudden it's popping off. And the way YouTube works is if someone really likes that video, it wants to recommend them similar videos in that vein. So if a video is popping off from like 5 years ago, you know that's a very interesting topic right now. It must be really big for it to not be a new video that's popping off. So what I'll do is I'll kind of look around, I'll look at like 10 creators, and I'll notice trends. So I'll notice like, wow, everyone's budgeting videos are popping off right now. Or I'll notice at the start of the year, everyone's goal-setting videos are popping off right now. And there are always trends like that. I'm sure you could find that, like, even if you were in a video gaming niche, I'm sure you go to all these different people like, everyone's video about this character. And I don't know anything about video games. But everyone's are, like, popping off. So it's been really interesting. So what I've been doing is kind of following those. If I have something to say on the topic, I've been kind of following that. It's been so helpful. My very, very, very best performing videos I've ever made, all of them were found using that strategy. So up until this point, that's one of the only strategies I think that works really, really well. Yeah, other than that, don't get too caught up in like extensions and analytics and stuff. Like I don't think they're, by and large, I don't think it's that helpful. So yeah, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.